Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of our My Hero Academia Season 4 weekly discussion videos, and today we're here to talk about Episode 6, An Unpleasant Talk. But before we get into the video proper, I do want to thank those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter, at HarrisonKVGC, at Matthew3645, at Janame, at A Wild Katie App, at Kisasan98, at AlexDrift11, at Corito Prime, at DarkfirePlayer4, and at ShonenOji. Thank you all so much for sharing last week's video over on Twitter. It is sincerely appreciated, and if you would like to have your name shouted out in next week's My Hero Academia video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout your name out in next week's video. Okay, so do you remember last week when we were talking about the villains of this show? And I had compared All for One to Xemnas from Kingdom Hearts 2, and that would make Overhaul Sephiroth from Kingdom Hearts 2, and that seemed like a weird comparison, right? But I just meant it that if one is like the storyline big boss, the like that's tied to the main character, this one is still tied to the main character, but he's still like just as powerful as the main boss. He's like his own side thing, right? He's not directly tied to the events of All for One and One for All, but he is still a big bad who needs to get taken down. That's Overhaul. And I had compared him to Sephiroth, but my man is more akin to like a Freddy Krueger type, because this dude is a walking nightmare. I'm actually kind of shocked. This is no joke. This man is evil in every sense of the word. Like, I knew when people had said, like, listen, man, Overhaul some scary stuff. We had seen All for One or One for All, or I don't know why I always get confused, but we've seen villainy in this show, you know, like we've seen horrible acts, but this is cruel. Like, what he's doing to Eri, essentially, like, it's the reason why her arms are always bandaged, is that he's probably like taking her, like disintegrating parts of her, putting it into bullets and then reconstituting it. And that's this poor kid. Like genuinely, I sat there with my cup of tea, all excited for my hero. You could tell I'm still just absolutely like stunned. I sat there with my cup of tea, just staring at the screen in about as much shock as the characters on screen. And I genuinely felt like nervous, genuinely on edge, because they really, I have to give this episode so much credit, because normally when the show is trying to build up tension, it does so really well, but typically the way it builds tension is during like action scenes where you're not sure if a character is going to get out okay. That seems to be what My Hero's been like excelling at in certain things. But in this episode, they're just sitting in a boardroom. It ain't that serious. Like, it's serious, but they're just sitting in a boardroom. Nobody's life is at stake in this boardroom. And yet, the way that they speak about Overhaul, it feels like it is. It feels like everyone in that room is threatened. It feels like everybody in that room, like, you just feel the palpable tension in the air as they speak about this man who is literally, genuinely hurting his kid for profit. And it's not even profit for like it is for profit 100%, but he's also not only hurting his kid, but he's attacking heroes, attacking civilians, like sending out villains to cause mayhem and destruction, and he's just evil. Like this is the most evil character we've seen on screen. I don't want to say the most. We have seen evil before, but this is like the most despicable, you know what I mean? Like, this is cruelty at its absolute darkest. And yeah, Overhaul's no joke. Overhaul is absolutely terrifying. I can't believe what's happening to this poor kid, and the post-credit scene didn't help, you know? Like, the post-credit scene of Eri just laying on this bed in this dark room where there's like all these toys, this like false sense of caring, like they don't give a damn about Eri, but they're pretending so that she doesn't run away again. It's disgusting. And this poor kid, I hate kids. How did this show manage to get me to care? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's just how despicable this is. Because, like, I don't want kids of my own. I typically don't like kids, especially with this whole COPPA thing going on. I super friggin' hate them. But I would never, like, they're innocent, you know what I mean? Like, you don't drag a kid into situations like this. And anyone who does so is scum. And I cannot believe what he's doing to this little girl. Like, him and everybody in the organization, they gotta go. Like, and that's the thing, right? Horikoshi does such a good job at making you hate these people. Like, they're fascinating, right? Like Overhaul is fascinating. His organization, not so much, because we don't really know a whole lot about them. But Overhaul himself is fascinating. But you want to see him and everybody who works with him taken down because what they do is despicable. And I think that's Horikoshi's greatest skill, is that he can make characters really fascinating. You want to see them be on screen, but at the same time, you find them, like, repulsive. And that's... he has a skill for either making a character really interesting and you love to root for them, or still making a character really interesting and feeling the exact opposite. And that's what I got from not only the finding out the source of the drug, but also finding out, like, the post-credit scene of what Aries' life is like in this base. And yeah, it's just... It's sad. It actually made me sad. It made me sad and scared at the same time. This episode was, like, flawlessly executed on that front. It is a little bit slow. Like, if you come to My Hero for action specifically, you may find this episode to be a little bit droll, but overall I think it's absolutely just, like, edge of your seat with just dialogue, which I really have to give not only credit to Horikoshi, but also the seiyus as well. And I've had people say, like, why do you say seiyus if everything else is in English? Because if I say voice actors, people are going to think that I'm watching the dub, and it's nothing against the dub, I just don't like dubs, so I prefer to watch it in Japanese, so I say seiyus just to differentiate. But yes, I want to give credit to the seiyus big time, because you can have great dialogue but have awful actors just, like, just make the script fall apart. The seiyus crush every line in this episode. It is absolutely phenomenal. And speaking of the seiyus, we gotta talk about my poor boys, my two twin best boys, Mirio and Deku, when they find out, because you basically, like, the audience finds out round about the same time as Mirio and Deku, since they have a little bit more information than the rest of the people on the board in the conference room. So they piece it together really quickly, whereas everybody else needs it sort of explained by that one douchebag character, Locke something, I don't know. That character sucked. I was like, oh my god, shut up. But at the same time, like, what Locke was, the Locke guy, whose name I will remember next week, promise. Well, actually, I shouldn't say promise, but I'll try to remember next week. He made good points, but he was just being a dick. So every time he spoke, I was like, can you please shut up? Please. Like, what an asshole. But he was right. Like, a lot of the things he was saying was right. Like, when Night Eye is just like, I can't use my quirk. We know why, but the rest of the conference room doesn't, right? So he's obviously like, who cares about... Dude, tell me my future. Well, if I die in it, that's fine. I'll try to avoid it. Just tell me. And Night Eye's like, I can't do it, but I want to talk about Night Eye a little bit more later. Right now, I want to focus on the conference room, the people's reactions, and specifically Deku and Mirio, because I have never felt more for Deku and Mirio than I did in this scene. Deku and Mirio, I hate that they're beating themselves up. It's what they would do, but I hated seeing it. You hate to see it, you know? Because it's like Deku saying, like, the greatest hero, huh? Right. And Mirio saying, Lemillion, I'm going to save 1,000,000 lives, ha. And I'm like, stop it. Stop beating yourselves up. You two you're good lads, and you made the right decision. You couldn't have done anything. Like, I hate that they're beating themselves up, because they couldn't have done anything. Well, I understand why they're upset, but they couldn't have done anything differently. They would have just gotten killed, and they would have, like, sent Eri further into Overhaul's grasp. They couldn't have done anything differently. But this led to a brilliant scene with my now confirmed A to possibly S tier husbando, Aizawa. Eraserhead has always been a character who I really enjoyed. However, I couldn't put him on the husbando status for whatever reason, but this episode made me go like, no, okay, because here's why. We both care about Deku. Deku makes decisions sometimes that I'm like, why do you do that? But at the same time, you care about him too much for him to do anything differently. And Aizawa saying like, you haven't really earned my trust back. And I was like, Aizawa, come on, man. And then he follows that up with, but because of that, I'm gonna watch over you. And if you're gonna do this, you're gonna do this right. And we're gonna get her back together. And I was like, just yes, Aizawa, just total husbando tier, like top class husbando. I loved Aizawa in that scene because he was just being like a perfect. We forget sometimes, right? Because we get so caught up in the quirks and the storyline that this is technically, to an extent, a show about a group of characters coming of age. And the school aspect to that story should still play a key role. And in this moment, you really remember that Aizawa is their teacher. Eraserhead is there to mentor them, to guide them. And in that scene, that felt like a teacher talking to a student who they really love, but at the same time, like, makes mistakes and they're trying. So the way that he worded it, of like, I still can't trust you because you still broke you broke that bond of trust, but I can't let you do this. I can't tell you not to do this. I know that you're just gonna do it anyway. So if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this right. I'm gonna protect you, and we're gonna get her back together. And I just loved that, like the fact that Aizawa was willing, and just like the whole scene of it. I am a little worried, admittedly, because that scene made me go like, okay, they are really hammering the like teacher-student bond between Deku and Aizawa, and that made me go like, and it's like they really lay it on thick, right? Like really emotional like character beat for those two, and it made me go like, okay. The one thing that the conference call did exceptionally well was that it really made you feel like anybody in that room could drop in this arc. Like, you could see characters drop off the map in this arc. And I feel like it would almost be cheap if somebody didn't go. I don't want anybody to go, but it feels like somebody could die. And I don't want anybody to die, but if, like, of course, right? Because the instant I say, this is my husbando, if you haven't been on the channel for a while, for some reason, my husbandos always die. I don't know why. But that scene made me go like, yeah, Aizawa. And then I thought about it. I'm like, those are death flags, aren't they? Shit. If Aizawa dies in this arc to save Deku, I'm going to lose my mind. He better not. Honestly, a lot of death flags, though. Like, would they kill Mirio? I don't think they would. I can't see it. Would they? I can't see them killing a student. I just can't see it. I don't know. Also, Gran Torino, I could see maybe going out. But I maybe not. I could see Night Eye going out. But I think the one that I'm most worried about is Aizawa. And if you're a manga reader and you're typing in the comments, well, actually, blah, blah, blah. Don't. Seriously, don't even timestamp me. Don't do that. Don't talk about anything manga related. Don't even comment. Just don't do anything if you want to talk about the manga. Just don't. Just take your manga comment and just put it on hold until we get to that point, okay? Cool. See, this is why I get nervous when I talk about certain elements to anime where I'm like worried about a character dying, or I'm worried about what's gonna happen to a character because somebody goes like, well, you're hot, you're cold. I'm like, don't tell me. When I say I wonder, it means I wonder. It doesn't mean I want to know. But anyway, Deku and Mirio, I liked that they found that newfound resolve. Deku felt sort of like reinvigorated thanks to Aizawa, and Mirio getting that pep talk was from Sun Eater. You could tell it really kind of, it didn't fully bring him back, but he was like, yeah, you're right, I have to do this, we gotta save Eri, like, we got this, Deku. And Deku's like, yeah. And again, the big brother bond between Mirio and Deku, I know they're not related, but they may as well be, because that big brother little brother bond that they share is fantastic. I love it to pieces. And I don't know, I'm a little worried because the preview for next week shows Mirio still kind of beating himself up a little bit, and I don't really like Deku. Deku has no excuse to beat himself up. Like, he really couldn't have done anything. I could see Mirio maybe beating himself up because he was the one who suggested that they let Eri go so that they can save her another day. But that was also the right decision, so I really don't want that character to feel bad, but given how given like the personality we have seen from Mirio, it makes sense for him to beat himself up. I wish he wouldn't, because he's such a good lad, but like, I understand if he has to. And speaking of doing what they have to, or in this case, maybe not doing what they have to, I did want to mention Night Eye. Sir Night Eye is a character who I initially was sort of skeptical on. I wasn't really feeling his character, but now I've kind of come full circle. You understand why he says the things he says and does what he does, and it's not so much that I hate his opinions on things, it's just that I typically disagree, but it doesn't make me dislike him as a character, because I at least understand where it is that Night Eye is coming from. And with him not wanting to use his quirk, it's because of what he saw with All Might. He doesn't want to run that risk again of seeing somebody die a gruesome death and have that be on his conscience. Like, he just doesn't want to go there again and do that again. And honestly, I respect it. I understand why. And I'm sure, because like, to the rest of the people in the conference room, they're probably thinking like, we have a ace in the hole who refuses to use his quirk. Thanks, Night Eye, and you're the one supposed to be leading us. Great. But at the same time, if you were Night Eye, or at the very least understood what he was saying and why he was saying it, you wouldn't force him to use his quirk, you know? And I gotta say, the explanation of his quirk does have me a little bit slightly more optimistic about All Might's chances, just because the way it's worded is like, you see it from their perspective, and he can only see some things around them, but it's like watching a movie. So it's not like you can like interact with anything or anything like that. And it's not like he sees it from a third perspective. He does see it from their perspective. So there's a possibility that maybe he was wrong. I don't know. But I do understand a little bit more about Night Eye, and it has endeared me to him a little bit, which also makes me very nervous, because anytime I again, for some reason with me, all my favorites always die, and so everybody be on high alert for the next coming weeks for either Aizawa, Night Eye, or Mirio. I can't see them killing Fat Gum, because I just don't know why they would, but maybe, I don't know. Like I said, anybody in that room could go, and also, like I said, if you're a manga reader and you're about to comment anything, don't. But yeah, like I said, this is definitely a slower episode for some if you come to the show for specifically action. Again, it may not be what you're looking for. However, I do think that based off the preview for next week, we're definitely going to be getting some action. At the very least, it seems like it's going to be the start of the big battle for Eri to save her from Overhaul. And I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, I'm actually, for the first time in My Hero, I'm genuinely concerned that characters are going to drop, because characters in My Hero don't seem to die. Like, they have like that superhero thing where they just don't die. Most superheroes either come back or escape from the brink. And this is the first time in a while where I've actually felt like somebody could drop, and I'm very nervous about it. The tension they built in this episode is absolutely brilliant, and I'm so excited but also really nervous for next week. My Hero's just like, this arc already is easily in my top 3. I'm so curious to see where things go from here. On that note, everybody, I'm going to give this week's episode a super strong rank of A. I'm going to go ahead and put this into the A tier. There's some hiccups here and there that kind of prevent it from an S, but overall, this is a very, very strong A tier episode. And on that note, everybody, that's going to wrap up today's video. But before we take off, I want to give a big shout out to the good folks over on Patreon, namely those in the Earl Grey tier: Calvin Atkinson, Crowbar of Irony, Dominic, Urza, Genkotaku, No For Nothing, Maria Teresa, Mirth Mouser, Omner Garamond, Cell, Shadow Creative, Sipco Games, Somastan, Steven, Tristan, Verdon, and Westbourne East Bred. A huge thank you to those of you who support the channel over on Patreon, and if you too would like to join the T Squadron, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page, see all the cool rewards you can get over there, as well as access to our Patreon exclusive Discord. Thanks once again for checking out today's video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, then you've probably been on the internet long enough to know what to do already, so I ain't gonna tell you, but I will say that it is appreciated. And if you are feeling stressed out today, then you go have yourself a warm cup of tea, and I will talk to you all again real soon.